Hello and welcome back, and in this video we're going to continue our exploration of PhaseAnimator, and in this video we're going to create a pendulum kind of effect using the PhaseAnimator in SwiftUI. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. I've got some basic structure set up here where we have navigation stack and a Vstack. What we're going to do is instead of complicating our UI, we're going to simply use a simple image of clock face to show that as a clock, because all we care about is the pendulum animation. That's what we are creating, so we're not going to bother creating the full clock face. Okay, so we're going to simply have an image. Okay, and this image is going to come from system, the SF symbol. So we're going to simply say clock.fill. Okay, that's gonna give us some clock face, and we're gonna make it resizable, and also let's set the foreground style to be orange.gradient. Okay, next what we're gonna do is we're gonna resize it to a square so it looks a little bit better and not stretched. So we're gonna give it a frame with width and height, and basically we're gonna set the value of 200 and 200 for both of them. All right, next what we're gonna do is we're gonna create a Vstack, and this Vstack is gonna hold all the components that we need to create that pendulum. So we're gonna create a Vstack, and let's go ahead and set the spacing for this Vstack as 0. So there's no spacing between the child elements that are laid out inside this Vstack container. Next, we're going to create a rectangle. Okay, this rectangle is going to have a frame with width and height, and the width is going to be 1 point and the height is going to be 200 points. It's almost like the arm of the pendulum. Okay, and then we're gonna basically create a circle which is gonna represent the main pendulum, which actually oscillates between two different states. Okay, so we're gonna have a circle, and we can have a fill with brown color and gradient effect. Now our pendulum is rather big, so let's go ahead and resize it. And because this is a circle, all we need to do is either define the height or the width of the frame. So we're gonna say frame.height, and we can set it to 20 points. Okay, so it's like a little bit smaller, and then now we are ready to create our PhaseAnimator. Now if we add PhaseAnimation basically on this outer Vstack, it's going to basically oscillate the whole view, and that's not what we want. We want our pendulum to go back and forth, not the entire clock. Okay, so let's go ahead and attach the PhaseAnimator to the view. Basically what I'm trying to say is you attach the PhaseAnimator modifier to the view that you want to provide animation to, not its outer view. Okay, all right, so let's go ahead and set the PhaseAnimator, and we're going to use the PhaseAnimator phases, and we're going to oscillate between 45-degree angle and negative 45-degree angle. So 45.0 and negative 45.0. Okay, now for the content, we're gonna get the access to the view proxy and the phases between for the oscillation. Okay, and what we're gonna do is we're gonna take our view and apply a rotation effect to that. Now rotation effect takes two parameters. First one is angle, which is required. Second one is anchor, which is by default set as center. We need both of them. So let's go ahead and select that, overload. And for the angle, what we need is a degree and the phase that has been passed in, and also the anchor is going to be the top value. And as you can see, our view started, our pendulum started oscillating between negative 45 and 45 degrees. Okay, so it's going back and forth, and basically is creating that effect. Now we can add a nice frame around this. by simply setting a padding of 25 points and a background with color dot indigo dot gradient, and let's go ahead and put it inside a rounded rectangle with corner radius of 10 points, and let's go ahead and only provide the stroke with line width of maybe 4 points. Okay, and there we have it. We have our pendulum, and it is going back and forth. Now our view is a little bit like, our arm is a little bit big, so let's go ahead and reduce the size of the arm. So maybe 100 is, or 150 is gonna do better. Okay, there we go. So it's inside the frame. All right, and basically you have the pendulum moving. Now there is a bit of a space between these two, and that's because there's a default spacing that's been applied here. So let's go ahead and fix that by applying spacing as 0 points, and now your pendulum's arm is attached to your clock. All right, so this is basically how you can create a pendulum, but our pendulum is really fast, and we want it to slow down a bit, and in order to do that we can actually use another overload of PhaseAnimator. Now this overload of PhaseAnimator gives us ability to control animation for different phases. Now for this case, let's use the closure, and basically we're gonna simply animate for with the speed. So we're gonna just adjust the speed, and the overload actually is simple enough. It basically gives us the animation, and we, as you can see, we can actually get the access to different phases. In our case there are only two phases, 45 degree and negative 45 degree. We don't really care about those phases at this point. We just want to slow down our animation, so we're gonna simply say underscore here, and for the animation effect itself we're gonna say it's gonna be ease in and out with speed of 0.2. Okay, speed by default is 1.0, and as you can see now our view is, or our pendulum is much more relaxed. It's not in a rush to go anywhere. It's actually nicely oscillating between two different phases, and basically completing its cycle and going back. Right, ease in and out gives you an effect of gravity, where at the center it's actually a little bit fast, and as it reaches to the side it gets slowed down a little bit. So it gives you a nice realistic pendulum kind of effect. Okay, now we can make this animation more dramatic. Like I said, last time we had our phase, access to the phase, and we just ignore it. Well, what about not ignoring it and using it for something else, so to control a different kind of animation? So let's go ahead and use the phase. Okay, and like I said, phase gives us access to or phase value gives us access to the phases that are applied on the PhaseAnimator, so we can simply switch between those phases. So we can say switch phase. If the case is negative 45, in that case return a snappy animation, which is a new animation effect introduced in iOS 17, and other cases just return a spring animation with damping fraction of 0.1. Okay, so this is gonna basically make our pendulum go a little bit crazy on one side. Basically the negative 45 degrees is when it's getting that snappy effect. So this is how you can actually use different phases for the animation. Now, since the PhaseAnimator expects a sequence and it operates on the values of the sequence, we can create some really interesting animation flows using that value. Okay, so you can basically get your views to react to those different phases. And in our next example, that's what we're gonna see. So we're gonna basically change our view a bit and see how we can actually react to different phases as we get their access inside the PhaseAnimator. So I'll see you guys in the next video. Thank you.